Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Wednesday, the 26th of June, 2024. You're watching Morning Brew on Politics Social with just 8 days to go to the election. I honestly feel like a kid at Christmas. This is going to be epic, amazing, awesome. We hopefully will watch the Tory party disintegrate into dust in real time, like Thanos. Clicked his fingers. Half of their MPs are going to go, at least. Maybe more. Maybe more. They could be down to double digits by the end of all this. And their behaviour during the campaign is really not helping. We'll get into that in a moment. But first, I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. We've got Jane in there. We've got Chuck. We've got Lucy. We've got Billy. We've got Elizabeth. We've got Leonora. We've got Ivan in there. How you doing, Ivan? We've got Gallifrey and Ren. Don't Do That is in there. We've got Xavier. We have Adrian and David and David. And also Glenn. Hello, everybody. And hello to any new people watching this. If you want to join the chat in real time, you can do so. You have to subscribe and then just wait about a minute. And then you'll be able to join in the chat. Please be rude. Please be rude. No, the other one. Please be nice and respectful of everyone in the chat, or we will kick you out of there. And you won't be getting back in. Right. So, Graham, it sounded to me like you said election with an R. I'm not getting that excited. Anyway, so the Tory betting scandal widens. There's now a fifth politician who has now come under the investigation of the Gambling Commission. Russell George, he's a member of the Welsh Parliament, represents the same constituency as Sunak's close parliamentary aide, Craig Williams, who's also part of the inquiry. He's the weirdo who I put on the front of this on the thumbnail of this video. On the front of this video? On the thumbnail of this video. He is like peak Tory. He's like, if you typed into AI, please draw me a Tory, they would draw that. That's Craig Williams. That's the person who would appear. We've also got, who else have we got? With Big Hun in the chat as well. We've got Richard Fraser saying nice and sleazy does it. Absolutely. Gary Arnold's in there as well, waving. Hello, Gary. But we've got to temper our expectations in some way, because Labour have had a candidate who decides to put a bet on himself to lose. Which is, in a way, something that I know some of my friends do. I know Aid Thompson did this. I think he did it for the Brexit vote. I think he did it for the Trump vote in America. The thinking is you put a bet on the bad outcome. So even if you get the bad outcome, you still get to win a gamble thing and get some money out of it. And I could see the reason why people might sort of think that was a good idea. But if you're going to be an MP, or if you are an MP, there are certain things that you should have. Like, you know, they have teacher training. I think Phil mentioned this. Teacher training. You have to be, they go through different scenarios that might come up in the classroom and how to behave and stuff. Do the same with MPs. Do the same with politicians or candidates, you know? Don't bet on yourself to win or lose. Don't bet on the date of the election. Don't bet on anything, really. Why are you needing to bet? You're a politician. You earn over £80,000 a year. That's pretty much 5 or 6 times more than most people earn in a year. But for some reason, the Tories think that's not enough. Of course they don't. But this Labour MP obviously was thinking, or Labour candidate, I should say, was thinking, well, I'll bet myself. I'll bet on myself, and then if I lose, at least I get some money at the end of the day. But it's now turned out that he's also donated over £100,000 to the Labour Party, and this is going to be giving with which the Labour Party is going to give back, and they have suspended him as a candidate for Labour. Now, obviously, it's too late to change the ballot. This is what happened in Rochdale earlier in the year, if you remember that far back. Oh my God, it seems a world away. The election that George Galloway won, which he is not going to win the rerun of, I don't think. Thank heavens. But yeah, it's too late to change the name, but they have dropped him like a hot stone, which is the right thing to do. The Tories, on the other hand, they were like, no, we're sticking by our candidates. They did a wrong thing, but, you know, let's all forgive them. I love the way that Tories are all for being Christian when it comes to forgiving themselves of terrible things they've done. But they're not very Christian in the whole sort of helping people who are poor, people who are disenfranchised, helping people who are literally starving from one day to the next. They're not too into that. That's not a big thing for them. So yeah, anyway. So out of, I don't know, embarrassment that Labour had kicked their guy to the curb, the Tories have had no choice but to suspend their candidates who are embroiled in this. There's 5 candidates so far in this, and also there's 5 police officers as well. I think there's about 15 people all in who are facing this kind of issues. Adobe, stop giving me pop-ups while I'm presenting a live stream, you gang of absolute update maniac bastards. Anyway, back to the chat. Gallifreyan Rain, didn't Noel Fishy say the other day that none of the cabinet were involved right before one of the cabinet members was reported to be involved? Yes. It's almost as though you can't trust them as far as you can spit a live rat. Roger, here in Portugal, I haven't received my ballot paper. When should I expect it? I want to add weight to the cause. I don't know. I don't know what the postage is like in Portugal, but it should arrive before the election. Let's put it that way. But there you go. Graham definitely said erection. That was a Freudian clit. I mean tit. I mean slip. Hughes said, I'm going to be flying over Frim Island to watch with my partner in Essex and see the Tories become history. Yes. Make Tories history. I do like that. Server says, who would have thought Labour MP getting caught would help Labour? It shows Starmer is true to his word, kicking out the MP in question, where Sunak waited. Yet whenever this has happened, whenever something has come up in Labour that's been similar to what's happened in the Tories, and you got a group of 200. I mean, these elections, you've got 600 candidates across the country, and a couple of them are going to do stupid, bloody things. But I do appreciate the fact that Starmer comes down on people like a ton of bricks and says, no, I'm not having this. And that's the way he's turned the Labour Party into an electable force. And we'll talk about this a bit more in the show, I think, because it is important. Because there are quite a lot of us who feel like this isn't quite the Labour government incoming that we want. Like, I would much rather have a much more left-wing Labour Party. I'd rather have a Labour Party that was getting rid of the absolutely abhorrent 2-child cap on benefits for children, which is putting people off having families. It's putting people off having more children. Like, if you are in a relationship where your partner already has 2 kids, you and your partner can't have more kids in case something goes wrong, you lose your jobs, an accident or whatever, and then the state is not going to step in to help your child because it's per household. I couldn't think of anything more cruel myself. And stupid. Everything the Tories do is cruel and stupid. It's morally it's incompetent, morally bereft, and economically illiterate. It's always economically illiterate. That goes back to the days of austerity, which we're still living in right now. It's not like the successive Tory governments gave back funding to local authorities. No, they've been cut. They were cut overnight by 25%. They've been cut now by up to 49% in many of the authorities around the country. And I'd like to see Labour saying, right, we're going to sort this out. But at the same time, I know they've got to get elected. And if this line of we're going to under-promise and over-perform is true, yeah. But again, any port in the storm. This is our only ladder out of the cesspit that we have found ourselves in after 14 years of Tory rule. And in order to make sure that Labour win, they have to overcome insurmountable odds. I mean, we're talking about a landslide victory for Labour. Well, if it's not a landslide, they won't win. They've got to win over 100 seats more than they got last time in order just to get a majority of 1. So, yeah, I get it. And there's you'll see in a moment when I go to the papers, there's a story in the Mail about the Starmer saying, yes, the Mail readers were right. And I'm sitting there going, no, the Mail readers are never right. But then there's a part of me thinking, actually, that's probably a smart thing to say. Massage the egos of the weird little gammon people. Massage their egos. Go, yeah, you were right. You were right. You were right. Because those male visas aren't going to vote for Labour, but they will vote against Labour. And if they feel so, imagine like we're doing tactical voting now, aren't we? In across the country, stopthetories.vote. Please go to their website; it's very good. And type in your postcode and see who's best place to stand, best place to vote for, who has a chance of winning winning against the Tories. But the Tories kind of think the same way, and if they feel like a Labour government is going to destroy everything that they hold dear, like the blithe cruelty that keeps them going from day to day, then they are going to vote Conservative, not because they want the Conservatives in for another 5 years, but to keep Labour out. And that's what Starmer's mission has been. It's been, I'm going to take Graham's vote for granted. I'm going to take the people watching this vote for granted, because who else are you going to vote for? And then make sure that the people on the right don't vote against Labour. People are talking about turnout. Turnout will be low. Turnout will be low. Oh, good. Fine. Do you know what? If 4 million Tory voters stay at home in this election. Oh no! What a personal disaster. I think to choose not to vote is a valid electoral choice. Phil and I differ on that, but anyway, so yes, the Gambling Commission looking into several candidates for placing bets on the date of the election and themselves. But yeah, we do need some kind of initiation. Not initiation. That's a bad word to use. Training, teacher training for wannabe MPs. BBC Newsnight has learned up to 15 Conservatives and officials are being looked at by the Gambling Commission over alleged betting on the timing of the general election. So that's also does that include the police? So it's I think it's 5 Tory politicians. There's 5 police officers, and then I think there's 5 people who worked with the Tories. And wasn't there like the wife of one of the guys who's in the cabinet who placed a bet? I don't know. Has Lara Trump said the quote of the year? Trust me, I'm the daughter-in-law of Donald Trump. Did you say that? My God. Reminder that Sunak knew about the betting a week before it was made news. So it actually took him 3 weeks to do anything. Yeah, decisive. We like that. We like it when our candidates are decisive. The Labour candidate may not have been fully trained on the Tory side. They should have been trained as politically exposed persons. That's true. Lee Corn, the police are investigating everyone who placed a bet on 4th of July and looking for links to Tory politicians. Good. Lib Dem posters everywhere in Torbay, Devon. Excellent. How did Tory candidate manage insider betting? Well, no, it wasn't insider betting, Sean. It was betting against him winning, and you shouldn't do that. I mean, I don't think it's like necessarily a crime. Insider betting is a crime, and if the Gambling Commission find that these Tory candidates have committed a crime, they could face a fine. Well, we got what we got because Labour failed to win in 2017 and 2019. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, Hornet GX. Yeah, Labour failed to win on a catastrophic level, and we can talk. I'm not going to go and dissect those years again under the previous leader, but it goes to show that it doesn't matter how febrile your base are, how outspoken, loud, noisy, whatever you want to call it, or vicious your base are. If there's not enough people who want to vote for you, you're not going to win an election. And if you have a divisive character, it's very doubtful that person can win an election unless they appeal to the moderates. And what happened in the 2019 election, you had 2 divisive characters running for election, but one had the moderates on side, and that was Boris Johnson, because people who see themselves as moderates on the right, I guess, said, "Oh, well, we'd rather have this guy than this guy." It was a bit of a horrible choice to make, but they thought that Boris Johnson would be a better leader. Yeah. We saw how that turned out. Danilo Pecha, thank you very much for being a member for 14 months. I will give you a little super chat there. And telling me that Steve Bray has reached pension age today. Good on old Steve Bray. Is he that old? Is he that old? Is he 60? Is he 60? 65, 67? What is it these days? I don't know. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to retire. Alec Barrett, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Woohoo! 15 Tories, 6 Coppers, 1 Labour. Wow. Wow. Yeah. So let this be a lesson to you. Don't bet us off. But isn't it interesting, right? Here's the thing, right? So many of these politicians don't see that they're doing anything wrong. They don't seem to have the faculties to look at a situation and go, this might be morally dubious for me to do this. And I think that says a lot. I mean, going back to the expenses scandal, there was a lot of politicians in Labour as well. I'm not letting Labour off the hook on this, who were spending money on shite. Okay, the duck pond was a Tory MP, an island for his duck pond. He wanted the taxpayer to pay for it. But it got to a point where it was just, it was obscene what these MPs thought that they could get away with claiming. And yeah, I absolutely 100% agree with the fact that they're not allowed to do that anymore. But the Tory MPs in particular, they make their money in other ways. Now, not necessarily taking it direct from the taxpayer, or maybe taking it indirectly from the taxpayer by giving their friends access to VIP lanes for PPE that doesn't work. Sorry about that. Just had to turn my mic off for a moment. Often the election day, the Tories use minibuses to offer old people from care homes to go to the polling stations while bigging up their candidates on the journey. Says don't do that. Yeah, there's nothing to stop them doing that. And also, when you vote, you can sometimes have people outside the polling stations who are pretending to, canvass your vote, and then to ask who you're voting for and all that kind of stuff. And they're actually members of a party, which I think is a bit naughty. But yeah, that's the way it works for some stupid reason. But I'm always intrigued at what the ruling elite in this country, the Tories, the private school mafia, just think is normal, and how dissociated they are from reality for the rest of us. And I was really shocked this weekend. I was in Liverpool, and I every time I go back now, obviously I don't live there anymore. I go back every few weeks, but every time I go back, it's got worse. Especially things like the potholes in the road. And it's because the council's got no money. The central government funding has been cut by austerity, by the Tories, so much. That's why you're seeing councils all over the country going bankrupt, both Tory and Labour councils. That's why you're seeing council tax going up everywhere, because there's a massive shortfall in what councils can spend. And also, we need to do two major things, right? We need to fund councils properly, right? To bring down council taxes, have that money coming in from central government. But also, we need to professionalise councillors. At the moment, if you are a councillor in a city council or county council, you're not paid. You get like expenses. You get like $6,500 a year or something for expenses. It's not a full-time job. And so the only people who do it, who want to do it, are people who are retired, maybe too much time on their hands, or if you're working and you've got a young family, forget it. You're not going to become a councillor. It's too difficult to work a full-time job, turn up to council meetings, be a good councillor. I mean, I'm sure people do it, but the amount of time they're given to help with the council, and you are presiding over the quality of life, and this is the important thing here, the quality of life, the built environment of potentially millions of people who live in your area, whether it be Greater Manchester, Merseyside, or wherever, Liverpool City. And that sort of power should be something that I think should be a full-time job. I think you should get paid for it. I think you should have staff. I know people go, well, how are you going to pay for all this? Yeah, but at the moment, because of the way it's set up, there's a lot of corruption and cronyism coming from Liverpool. Don't let me bore you about this, but yeah, there's opportunities to make sure that the person who builds that council estate is your brother-in-law's company, or you make sure that your son gets the deal to demolish a flyover that's falling down, because flyovers are a terrible idea and should never be done. So yeah, it's it's something that we need to look into because, and also with restructuring the House of Lords, I think we need to professionalise it. I think it's absurd that we give these millionaires 400 quid or whatever it is to turn up. And it's like, well, why are we bribing millionaires with taxpayers' money? Stop it. No, you're either a member of the House of Lords and you have certain rights and privileges that allow you to oversee policy coming in from the lower house, and you can send it back and say this needs to be amended, this needs to be changed. You can vote on it, you can hold it up for a year, just like the House of Lords can now. But let's professionalize it. Let's have it where it's not just some, I would like to say gifted amateurs, but I'm not going to say gifted amateurs because a lot of the time they're not gifted. Let's make sure there's not full of grasping amateurs and Nepo babies. Cathal, thank you very much. Cathal's a member for 13 months of the channel. Thank you so much. Councillors here get 28 euros, 28,000 euros plus 3,000 allowance. It's in euros. Yeah, Cathal, that makes sense to me. That's enough. That's fine. I'm not asking these people to be paid millions, but I want them to take their job seriously. And if they lose that job, I want it to be a problem for them. Do you know what I mean? I don't want it just... Why do people go and become councillors? I'm sure there are many who are good, who go into it because they genuinely want to make their area better. But I think there's going to be an equal number, if not more, who are going into it because they're just busybodies and they just want to mess stuff up for other people. Maybe. NIMBYism. And that sort of NIMBYism is the reason why you sometimes get we're seeing lots of initiatives to build new houses being blocked by local councils because those councillors, maybe they make their money through being landlords, and building new houses isn't good for landlords because that means their rents go down, and so they won't be able to own as many houses and buy as many yachts and get people to work every day to pay for their house. Isn't that brilliant? Isn't that a wonderful system? You get people who are working every day. Maybe they've got 3 jobs and they get to spend hardly any time with their family and they live in a rented accommodation. And you take their money from them. You take 1/3 of the money that they earn for working off them for nothing. You don't have to do anything. In fact, if there's a problem, you can just ignore it. There's no real law against it, I don't think. Unless the tenants actually die of the black mold in your property, you probably get away with it. You don't have to keep the upkeep very well, because the thing is, the tenants will probably look after the place. They'll probably let you know if there's a water leak. They'll probably prevent burglars coming in and robbing everything. They're almost like a sort of a custodian, maybe, of the house, maybe a night watchman or watch person. But if you do that in a museum, you've got to pay those people to be there all night to make sure no one breaks in and steals stuff. But if you have tenants, they pay you. That's the system. We take a step backwards and we go, hang on, why are people working so that the rich can buy more houses, and literally giving their work money to rich people to appreciate their assets that they don't like paying tax on? Yeah, that's a bit odd. And we look at cultures around the world, like in the Middle East, it's quite normal if you are going to get married that you pay your future wife's family a dowry. There's a dowry to be paid. It might be, some money, it might be gifts, it might be whatever. In India, there are places in India where they have the same sort of system, except the dowry doesn't go from the man's family to the woman's family. No. It goes from the woman's family to the man's family. As in, please take this woman off our hands. Women aren't much use. We'll give you money if you marry her so she doesn't have to stay with us anymore. That's nice. Now, as an outsider, you're looking at that going, that's a bit of an odd system. Doesn't that mean that men would be tempted to, I don't know, get married, get the dowry, then dispose of their wife in some way, and then get married again and get another dowry and do that a lot? Does that happen in India? Yeah, it does happen in India too, but horrifying degree. Not everywhere, in some places. As sort of people not from India who have grown up in this system, you're like, what the hell? How is that? How is that right? How is that normal? And I think we need to do the same thing with landlords in this country. We need to take a step back and go, what are we doing here? You have people basically working for you in a house as night watchmen, and yet they give you money for the privilege? Come on. And what are these landlords doing? Are they working towards the house? No, you're paying off their mortgage. You're paying off someone else's mortgage. You could be paying off your own mortgage, but you can't get on the housing ladder. Why? Because the landlords have all the houses, so the houses that are left, there's not enough of them. And so they cost an absolute fortune. They cost 10 times what you earn instead of what they used to in the 1980s when it was 3 times what you earn. Back in the 80s, your mortgage was generally 9 or 10% of your income. Now it's 33%. If you can get someone else to pay that 33%, your quid's in. Anyway, make landlords scum again. I'm going to get loads of grief in the chat now from landlords going, but Graham, we work really hard for those properties that we have someone else living in. But I don't think you're going to win me over on this one. My mind is made up. Quickly, we'll go to the papers. Public disgust at betting farce as Tories hunt insider who leaked July election date. So there's a hunt on for an insider. Got to be careful how you say that. Labour pledge on documents? No, doctors. Will end the 8 a.m. GP scramble, which is 8:30 at my surgery. We have to call in at exactly 8:30. It's a bit like trying to get concert tickets, when you want to go to a gig. And that was dull, says the Daily Star there at the top. The guy falling asleep. 0-0 draw with England. I didn't know England were playing last night. That's how boring it was. And there's a story here about we'll only have 14 years to prep for Armageddon if a asteroid comes our way, which sounds about right. Farage on the front of the Daily Express for some reason, looking to all the world like a crumpled bollock. UK must end funding France until small boats halted. All right, mate. And then we've got a guy in the top hat, very rich man. We just got a massive super chat from Plum Duff. Thank you very much, Plum Duff. That is very, very kind of you. Bye, Tories. Bye. Oh, thank you. That is really kind. Gillian says my rent is 50% of income. I'm sorry, Gillian. That is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. You're paying someone else's property. And before anyone says, but Graham, you have an island in Panama that you won in a game show. Yes, I do. And I have an indigenous family living on the island, and I pay them to live there because I know that if they weren't living on the island, someone would come and take the island. Squatters. Yeah. So, I pay them to live there. If it was in Britain, I could get them to pay me for the privilege of stopping squatters turning up on my property and taking over. So, my philosophy on it is very much, no, need them there, keep them sweet, pay them. They don't have to do anything. Well, a bit of maintenance, I guess, to make sure the place doesn't burn down or whatever. But the idea of rent, we need to turn it on its head because, honestly, once you take a step back, it's mad. But we'll move on. So this is the Daily Mail front page that I was referring to. Mail readers were right about Labour in 2019. That's why we've changed. That's what Starmer said in an exclusive interview with the Mail, which he's done on purpose, very much to keep the frothing gammon, the frothing gamgams that read the Daily Mail from voting Conservative out of spite, which is what they did in 2019. And then the Times, which is obviously a Murdoch rag, it's got Labour man suspended for betting on election. As we discussed, there's 15 Tories and 1 Labour person. So who's on the front cover? The Labour person, because that's the way our media works. And then Julian Assange has been freed. And there's 2 pictures there, and one they've slightly changed the levels on it. It's the same picture, but the levels are different. I didn't do that. Fifth Tory faces investigation as election betting scandal grows. So that's on the nominatively left wing paper. Nominative, not the left wing paper. Sorry, that was the wrong word to use. And then cabinet minister claimed he won £2,000 on election bet, and this is about Alistair Jack, who said that he made a joke about winning money, and then he said that he didn't actually do that. He was joking. And this is a minister in the Tory government. We've got party time at Metro offices. I don't know what that's all about, but you've got Zach Polanski there from the Green Party's deputy head of the Green Party. You got a very surprised looking Wes Anderson, Wes Streeting, who looks like someone's I won't say that. And then this Freed as Assange is owning home. Apparently there's going to be a £400,000 bill for the planes to fly into the Northern Mariana Islands, where he stood before a US judge this morning and was basically he pled guilty to one charge rather than 16 or however many indictments were against him, and because he's already served 5 years in Belmarsh prison, they said, okay, well, time served, you've done it. Okay, so he's now free to go back to Australia, but obviously getting to the Northern Mariana Islands, flying is very expensive. Getting to it without flying is less expensive, because I didn't spend anywhere near that amount when I went to the Northern Mariana Islands as part of my journey to every country in the world. Why did they go to the Northern Mariana Islands, Graham? I hear you shout. It's just the way the boat went. I was on a boat. I needed to go to the countries of Federated States of Micronesia. I went to an island called Yap. And I also needed to go to Palau, where the famous Jellyfish Lake is, which is just amazing. It's amazing. Anyway, I bet, what's this? I'm nearly 40. My middle brother is 37 and my youngest is 35. We will never be property owners. That's from Ivan. I'll never own property in this country. I will never own property. I will put money down. I'll bet on that. Should we do a bet? Unless something really turns around for me in my life, which I doubt, because I don't have the right connections and I don't have the right accent and I didn't go to the right school, unfortunately. For me, maybe not for the world, but for me. The idea of having that much money that I can afford a deposit and having that much job security that I know that I'm going to be making X amount of money every month for the rest of my life, it's for the birds. Because I've always been self-employed as well, and you don't get sickness, you don't get sick pay, you've got to work every day, even if you feel like absolute shit. I don't have a pension, don't have any savings, I don't get any holiday pay. And people go, oh yes, being self-employed, it's a two-edged sword, it really is. And when things are going right, it can be great, but when things go wrong, there's no safety net anymore for us. There used to be, but the Tories have taken it away. They've taken away so many things from us. And now they're saying, oh, we need to have more British people born. It's very important that we all have kids. And how selfish it is for people not to have children. You know, someone who went to a private school going, it's so selfish of these plebs not to have children. These are the same fuckers who just a few months ago or years ago were saying, well, if you can't afford to have children, you shouldn't have them. Well, I don't know, eating canapes and drinking champagne or biting the heads off swans or whatever it is that rich people do. Oh, I know, cocaine while doing cocaine, because that's the Tory drug of choice, isn't it? Are we having a debate watch party tonight? Yes, Michael Warner, we are certainly having a debate watch party tonight. Thank you very much for asking. We are going to have a debate watch party tonight. I've forgotten what time the debate is, but we will definitely be doing that. And also tomorrow night as well. I think there's going to be Quaggle Box where we'll be doing question time. And I think there's another interview there as well. So please join us for that. Michael says, you've got an island. Wow, I don't really see the problem with the idea of renting. You pay for somewhere to live. I agree rents are shockingly high, but basic concept is not incomprehensive. No, I don't agree with it. I think that property owners, like myself in Panama, should pay people to live on their property, unless I'm going to live there myself. If I'm living there myself, fine. I don't, have to pay for that because it's mine. But if someone else is living there, no, I think I should pay them. I think everyone should. I think we need to flip the way we think. And just because this is the system, the way it's always been, doesn't mean it's right. Doesn't mean it's moral. Doesn't mean it's fair. And I think that if you want to own 17 properties, then you should pay the mortgage on those properties with your work. And if you don't earn enough through your work to own those properties, you shouldn't own them. You should definitely not be taking 50% of the wage of somebody else to pay off your mortgage. And a new system where you can, obviously you could buy your council homes. So a system where if you pay rent, it goes towards a fund, and once you've paid 105% of the price of the property, it becomes yours. So you pay rent, and then you get to a point, 25 years, you've lived in the same place, and you've paid, that rent towards the council. We also need to talk about when we build new houses, having the mix, so you don't just have one area where only poor people live and one area where only rich people live. You need to mix it up. You need to have council built stuff for people who are council tenants, and then property that private owners can buy as well, next to each other, of the same quality. And that's a way that we need to go, because we need to get away from this ghettoization where you have the rich part of town with the good catchment area and the good school, and then you have a deprived area of town that is it can never get at it. It can never dig itself out of the hole that it's in, because the people who have money don't want to live there. In the same way that our state schools aren't going to improve until we force millionaires to send their kids to state schools. Do you know what would really help in your local school? A millionaire on the PTA. That's all I'm saying. Ivan, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. That's very kind. Thank you. In so many other European countries, people are not bothered about owning property. Yeah, probably because the rent isn't just astronomical. But there you go. At least you saw the world, Graham. That's true. Pure Logic says that's why they don't build houses. They're all landlords, and no competition means higher rent and more profits. Pure Logic. That is pure logic. Yeah, that's why they don't want any new houses built. It's against the interests of these private landlords, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of kowtowing to them. I remember the 1980s when aristocrats and landlords were seen as scum. It was a great time. Sheriff Fat Man. The aristocracy was seen as people to make fun of. How hilarious and out of touch and problematic they were. But the last 14 years, those same people have been in charge of the country. Except when Liz Truss got in for 2 weeks, which was a very strange time in our lives. Lud 2D Games, hubby and I are opening a geeky indie hub in Stockton on the back of the Tories effing off. Yay! You'll have to pop along and sell your book to talk, Graham. There'll be cake. Yes! LU 2D Games. I'm up for that. You have me at cake. Right. Little bit of housekeeping before I go. I will be back tonight for the debate, whatever's happening. We'll have a watch party. I'll put the thing up to tell you that there's going to be a show later on. Also, if you would be so kind as to head over to endthetories.com and help us out. We're setting up a response to the bots that the Reform lot and the Tories have been using to try and manipulate social media over the last few years. We are going to be setting it up so it's an automated system. But the thing is, it's not in the same way that those bots are, that they just pump out misinformation. What we're going to be trying to do is amplify the media that goes out from people who are telling the truth. Okay, so if it's a bad news story from a reputable news source, we will make sure that that bad news story gets into Facebook groups in local areas where they're very Tory, because otherwise they may not see that news story. We're going to be sending out memes that tell the truth. We're not going to lie. We're not going to over-egg the pudding. We're just going to go, this happened. Look at what happened, and make sure that we stay on the Tories and Reform. And I know it's really close to the election, and I know that the Tories are probably going to get battered anyway. But this is a project that's going to be going on for the next 5 years, because we can see that Reform and the Tories, something's going to happen. They may merge into some disgusting amorphous blob of gammon. And if that happens, Reform are going to use the tactics, which are perfectly legal, for them to just spread bots everywhere you go on social media. And we know this because Usually when it's not an election on and I put something about politics onto Twitter, I get a couple of responses, maybe. I get a couple of retweets. I'm not particularly big on Twitter. But during an election, suddenly there's all these people arguing with me. Where have all these people come from? And it's all babby bunch of numbers. Do you know what I mean? It's like, where did you come from? And that is something that we need to address. Yeah, we're looking forward to the future there with endthetories.com. And Ivan, we got another super chat. Thank you very much, Ivan. Final point for me today, the class system of people needs to be gone once and for all. Yeah. And the first step on doing that is to close down the private schools. So, trust me on this. Honestly, once millionaires have to send their kids to state schools in this country, if they want to live in this country, then the quality of those schools is going to go up. Because it's not going to go down, I'll tell you that now. And my friends who work on PTAs in their schools around the country, and they're working their arse off doing charity bakes and quizzes and holding little school fairs and things, and they raise like 10 grand in a year, and they're like, "Yay, we raised £10,000 for the school." And I'm sitting there thinking, if you had one millionaire on your PTA, that would be chicken feed for them. You just say, "Look, we need a new roof." "Oh, okay, here you go. Here's the money. Go and sort that out. We need new textbooks. We need new." Although then again, I don't know if the people watching this have ever met a rich person, but all the ones I've met, Christ, they're tight. If they swallowed a lump of coal, they're shit out of diamonds. That's probably why they're so rich. Johnny Copperhead, Viva la Truth Bots. Thank you very much. So yeah, I'm not relying on the idea that that they're going to be giving money to these schools out of the goodness of their heart, because I don't think a lot of them have goodness in their heart anymore. I think that the money sucks all that out of them. Look at J.K. Rowling. But I do think that they will act in their own self-interest, that they don't want the ceiling collapsing on their little Johnny. Or more likely Tarquin. Anyway, yeah, Viva la Truth Bots. I do like that word. I'm going to write it down. So thank you very much for the super chat there, Johnny. The Truth Bots. Right, one more thing before we go. This is to talk about tomorrow. Me and Ben Chambers of 16 Million Rising are going to be going to Northallerton, which is part of the Richmond and Northallerton constituency that Rishi Sunak is going to be standing in. We are going to be distributing leaflets saying to people, vote tactically. We're doing this on behalf of stopthetories.vote, which is different from endthetories.com. I know it's a bit confusing. Sorry about that. We're going to be telling people to put Rishi in the bin. And if you would like to come with us to fly, we've got about 5 volunteers so far, which is fantastic. We're hoping to do about 200 leaflets each on the day. This is tomorrow. We're going to be meeting at 11 o'clock in the morning. We're going to be flying right through the day. So if you can make it to Northallerton, please don't come from another country or from hundreds of miles away. But if you are close to North Yorkshire, or you're on the East Coast Main Line and you can get there for 11 o'clock tomorrow, we will be meeting at the pub quite appropriately to distribute these flyers, as many as we can. We've got 2,500 to distribute. I don't know if we're going to get through that many, but we want to try and put one through every letterbox we can get to in the Northallerton constituency, basically saying in 1906, the Tory party was so unpopular, the leader was so unpopular, that Arthur Balfour, that he lost his seat in the election. And now Rishi Sunak's constituency has the opportunity to do that again. And after Partygate and D-Day and all the other Tory sleaze and the mismanagement of the economy, I think it's what he deserves. So if you'd like to join us on that, either give me a shout in the Discord server after the show, if you can get onto the Discord server, if you're a YouTube member or a patron. But if you're not, please go to grahamdavidhughes.com, and there's a form at the bottom, and that will go straight to me. So I'm just going to put that into the chat, and then I'm going to come to Alec Barrett's super chat there. I knew a millionaire at uni. Christ, he was tight. That does not come as any surprise to me, but thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Oh wow, that's the old super chat animation. That's the wrong one. Super chat. Sorry to anyone who just gave an epileptic fit too. That was that was a bit. Leafleting is woke, says Roger Divine. I know. Mike says, my grandfather rented the house in Brighton in 1918 on the condition he dealt with all the repairs. He died in 1969, and then my grandmother died in 1998. The landlord took the house, having spent zero for 70 years. Yeah, Mike, it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. And we need to take a step back to realise that, because we're so used to this being the case. That's normal. You stay somewhere, you've got to pay for it, right? No, we need a better system. Where you stay somewhere, yeah, maybe you pay towards the mortgage and then you get the house at the end of it. And the landlord gets a cut. So the landlord gets the money back that they paid for the house plus X amount. So they get some money out of it, but not all the money. Not literally the price of the house out of a tenant to pay for the house that they don't need. Sorry, the landlord doesn't need, because the landlord obviously doesn't live there. I think houses, as someone said in the chat ages ago, which I loved, houses should be like dinner, it should be like food. You can have second helpings once everyone else has been served once, which isn't the case at the moment when people own loads of homes. I knew Joe Strummer, he wasn't tight. That's from Captain Bart Roberts. Yeah, he was a very good musician. And a very nice guy as well. My postal vote is on the way to the town hall, says Mr. TSK27. Fantastic. Right, sorry for keeping you so long. If you can join us tomorrow morning, I really, really appreciate it. Just one or two more people, boots on the ground for distributing these leaflets. And, who knows? He might win and whatever, but he might lose. And if he loses by like 10 votes, us doing this tomorrow might have just persuaded just a handful of people to go, do you know what? I'm not going to vote for Sunak. This leaflet's right. He's a dickhead, which would be very, very satisfying. The Richmond and Northallerton election results are due to come in at 4 a.m. next week on the morning of the 5th. I'll still be up then, but I'm hoping that it will be a line where you still up for Sunak. Anyway, right, 8 days to the election. I'll be back this evening with a watch party, and then tomorrow morning Phil will be back for another morning brew. And then we'll have a week till the election. I feel like a kid at Christmas. I'm so excited about this. And just before I go, I saw Inside Out 2 at the weekend. It's very good. If you've got kids, go and see it. Until next time, I'll say thanks very much for watching. Thanks for the chat. Thanks for the super chats, especially Plum Duff. That's incredibly, incredibly kind and generous of you. Thank you so much. And until next time, give us a like on the way out. And I should have a little script when I sign off, shouldn't I? I always say goodbye and then I go, I should have mentioned that. But never mind. It's fine. Thanks to everyone. Planted Plumdorf and Garlfane Wren and Captain Bart Roberts and Gillian Hope and LU2D Games, who I will be visiting after the election, and Sarah Davis and Johan. And 9 days until Starmer o'clock. 9 days till Starmageddon for the Tories. Until then, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.